The ceramic saint killed me before I could complain about its ugly face. When I opened my eyes, a summoning instructor stamped me dead last while my exam timer still had 2 minutes left. The red mark covered my name on the crystal board. Eli, rank 800 out of 800. 1,000 students saw it appear, and their laughter hit me like a bucket of stones. I stood on a white platform with wet clay under my nails. Above me floated a silver clock. It still showed 117 seconds. In front of me, Instructor Rusk lowered the stamp with the calm face of a man closing an empty box. "The test is not over," I said. "A summoner who needs 3 full minutes to call nothing will still have nothing after dinner," Rusk replied. The crowd laughed again. A tall student in a blue coat leaned over the railing. His black hair looked afraid of the wind. "Give him another hour," he called. "Maybe he can summon a chair." That was Cade. His name topped every board. He was the champion, the heir to a great contract house, and the owner of a smile that had never met a closed door. Rusk reached for the bronze badge on my chest. Scholarship status revoked, meal allowance revoked, main dormitory access revoked. He tore the badge free before I could touch it. The pin ripped my shirt. A new line appeared beside my name on the public board. Combat potential, 0. Memory arrived in broken pieces. In my old world, a rope had snapped while workers lifted a ceramic saint. It fell on me face first, smiling like a refrigerator with a personal problem. Now I wore another boy's clothes while a teacher robbed me in front of an audience. I did not understand the world yet. I understood that the timer had not ended and Rusk had already stolen my scholarship. I would remember his face. "Leave the platform," Rusk said. Near my boot sat gray clay from a repair bucket. I pressed a body, pinched 2 wings, and pulled out a crooked beak. It looked like a potato that had heard a frightening rumor. The laughter changed. It became curious. "What is that?" Rusk asked. "My remaining time," I said. I set the little bird on the summoning circle. Nothing happened. The clock still showed 43 seconds. Rusk stepped forward and crushed it under his black boot. The sound was small. Wet clay spread between the stones. 1 wing remained whole. "Toys are not summons," he announced. "Artificial things have no life. That is the first law of our profession. Remember this failure and do not waste the Academy's time again." Every crystal in the amphitheater carried his words. I saw students pointing at the mess under his heel. Cade covered his mouth, but he did not hide his smile. I crouched and collected the pieces. "Why bother?" Rusk asked. "The clay did not fail the test," I said. "You ended it." The front rows went quiet. Rusk pointed toward a narrow door beneath the stands. "Basement housing, room 13. If you remain on Academy grounds after the monthly review, I will be surprised." I left with the dead bird in my palm. Behind me, the next student summoned a silver cat in 11 seconds. The crowd cheered. My name stayed at the bottom of the board, bright enough for the whole city to see. Room 13 was the space that had lost a fight with a staircase. 1 wall leaned inward, and a pipe dripped into a green bucket. I put the bird on the table and counted my money. 7 copper coins. A bowl of thin soup cost 4. A bed outside the Academy cost 2 silver a night. 100 copper made 1 silver, and 100 silver made 1 gold. My wealth could buy dinner or nearly 2 small onions. The onions seemed more loyal. Then a voice spoke inside my head. It did not arrive with a glowing window. It sounded close, calm, and impossible to ignore. It told me that my awakening was complete, and that 3 class paths had opened. Clay craftsman promised faster hands. Maker of forms promised perfect copies. Emperor of clay had no rank, known skills, or recommended path. I almost laughed. In my old world, unknown buttons caused explosions or ordered food to the wrong house. They were still more interesting than safe buttons. I chose Emperor of Clay. Cold passed through both hands. The broken bird trembled on the table. The voice gave me one rule. Anything I personally shaped from clay could receive life. That was all. No sword or dragon, just life. A summoner normally needed a contract with a creature or spirit. Even a trained tunnel rat cost 30 silver. Artificial bodies could move by runes but never live. My class broke that rule with 1 copper's worth of mud. I looked at the crushed bird. That sounds expensive for everyone except me. I wet the broken edges, rebuilt the missing wing, and smoothed the mark from Rusk's heel. Its left eye stayed higher than its right, and its chest kept a permanent dent. The moment I lifted my fingers, the bird sneezed. It shook its wings. Drops of muddy water hit my face. Then it pecked my thumb and jumped backward as if I had offended it. I stared at it. It stared at me with 2 tiny holes for eyes. You are still ugly, I said. The bird turned around and presented its tail. Good, you understand language. I named it Pip because the first sound it made was a sharp little pip. It hopped across the table, opened its wings, and fell off the edge. I caught it before it hit the floor. The class gave life according to form, but it did not correct bad work. I balanced Pip's thick wing with more clay on his tail. He flew 3 circles, struck the wall on the 4th, and dropped into the green bucket. The door opened at that exact moment. A girl with a brown braid stood in the doorway holding 2 bowls. Pip rose from the bucket like a wet dumpling with wings. He landed on my head. The girl looked at him. Then she looked at me. I brought soup, she said. I did not know the basement already had wildlife. He is new. Is he supposed to be a bird? Pip threw a drop of water at her. He is sensitive about that, I said. Her name was Nia. She worked in the materials laboratory across the corridor. She had bought the 2nd bowl after seeing my meal badge taken. I offered her 4 copper. She refused. I offered again. She took 1 coin and said the soup had been damaged during transport. The potato soup held fried onions, pepper, and smoked meat. The bread was dark and crisp. After a statue killed me and a teacher buried my future, hot soup was a good argument for staying alive. Nia did not ask if I was all right. I liked her immediately for that. She watched Pip steal a piece of onion. It stuck to his beak. He shook his head until the onion flew into my soup. That is not a rune construct, she said quietly. No. There is no core. No. And you have no contract mark. Correct. Pip walked to the edge of the table and tapped his damaged chest. The dent from the boot was still there. Nia's face changed. He remembers. I held out my hand. Pip stepped onto it, but when my boot moved under the table, he jumped and spread both wings. He was afraid of feet. The room stopped feeling funny for a moment. I could have crushed him back into a lump and made a perfect bird. It would have taken 1 minute. Instead, I warmed a thin piece of clay between my fingers and reinforced the dent without removing it. Nia watched the whole time. Why not make another one? She asked. Because this one already paid for the clay, I said. She smiled, but her eyes stayed on my careful hands. She had understood the answer I did not say. After we ate, I used 4 of my remaining copper coins to buy 4 handfuls of repair clay from the laboratory bin. Nia made me sign for every handful. She said inventory rules were more dangerous than monsters. I shaped a dog with wide paws, a heavy chest, and a large nose. It looked like a loaf of bread guarding a house. The work took 47 minutes. My fingers cramped. Sweat ran down my back. Life did not remove the cost of labor. When I finished the last ear, the dog opened its mouth and breathed. It had no lungs. It still breathed. It stood, shook itself, and sniffed the room. Its nose made a soft grinding sound. Then it walked straight to Nia's pocket and pressed its face against the cloth. She pulled out the copper coin I had paid for the soup. Good nose, she said. I hid the coin under one of 12 jars. The dog found it in 6 seconds. Then Pip stole it and flew onto the pipe. The dog stared upward with deep personal disappointment. Form became function. A bird received flight. A dog received scent. Neither ability required a contract, a core, or daily feeding. My total production cost was 4 copper. A trained scent ferret in the Academy registry cost 40 silver and ate another 2 silver of meat each month. I had found my first business. The Academy paid 20 copper for every cellar rat caught near the food stores. The bounty notice hung beside the public ranking board. A registered summon had to make the catch, and a staff member had to verify it. Nia held up her laboratory badge. I count as staff until someone important notices me. We entered the east cellar with Pip, the dog, and an empty grain sack. The clay dog stopped at the first junction. Its head turned left, then right. It put its nose to the stone and ran. The dog pinned the first rat without biting. The second fled behind barrels, but Pip tracked it from above. Bird and dog understood the jobs their bodies suggested. Within 32 minutes, they caught 14 rats. Nia wrote each number in the ledger. The cellar keeper called 2 kitchen workers to watch. By the time we climbed outside, 7 people followed us. The evening ranking ceremony had begun in the courtyard. Hundreds of students stood below the crystal board. Rusk was reading the names of accepted summoners when our procession arrived with a moving clay dog, a muddy bird, and a sack that squeaked. The courtyard went silent. Cade stood beside Rusk. His perfect hair had survived the entire day. I respected its endurance. Rusk looked at the dog. What trick is this? 14 verified catches, Nia said. She handed him the ledger. The Academy owes 2 silver and 80 copper. Whispers spread through the crowd. Someone near the board shouted that my name still showed 0 summons. Rusk did not take the ledger. A moving doll is not a summon. The bounty is invalid. The clay dog walked to him and sniffed his polished boot. Rusk stepped back. The crowd laughed. Not at me this time. You taught us the first law this morning, I said. Artificial things have no life, so either this is alive or your boot is afraid of a toy. The laughter doubled. Rusk's ears turned red. Cade raised one hand. A simple test will settle it. He pointed toward the sand training square. 10 brass tags were buried beneath piles of straw, stones, and old shields. Beside the square waited Rusk's official scent ferret, a sleek brown creature with a silver contract collar. Let the doll compete with a real summon, Cade said. If it finds more tags, register it. If it fails, remove Eli from the academy tonight. Rusk smiled again. The ferret had been trained for search trials. My dog had existed for less than 2 hours. Agreed, I said. Add the rat bounty and restore my exam time when I win. The word when moved through the crowd. Some students laughed. Others pushed closer to the square. Rusk released the ferret. Pip landed on my dog like a very small general. Fine brass, I said. Both animals ran. The ferret dug through straw. My dog passed it, shoved its nose beneath a shield, and pulled out the first tag. The board above the square flashed 1 point beside my name. The crowd made a single sharp sound. The ferret found 1 tag. My dog found 2 more. When it lost the trail near some boxes, Pip landed on the highest one and pecked twice. The dog jumped up and found another tag. They are communicating, Nia said. She had not meant to speak loudly, but the observation crystals carried her voice across the courtyard. 4 points became 5, 5 became 6. The ferret had 2. My dog found the 7th, then stopped before the last straw pile. A thin crack crossed one front leg. The ferret rushed toward the same pile. My dog limped forward. Pip dove at the straw and scattered it with his wings. The dog pushed its nose through the opening and closed its mouth around the 8th tag 1 heartbeat before the ferret reached it. The crystal board rang, 8-2. The kitchen workers cheered. Students climbed onto benches to see the potato bird they had mocked that morning. Cade's smile remained in place, but it looked less comfortable. Rusk stared at the board. This proves scent. It does not prove life. The Academy Registry crystal answered before I could. Light moved from the training square to my name. The line that had said 0 summons cracked apart. 1 bonded unit appeared, then a second. My rank rose from 800th to 799th. It was only 1 place. The reaction sounded like I had kicked down the Academy gate. The crystal returned my bronze badge and released 2 silver and 80 copper from the bounty chest. The coins fell into Rusk's open hand. He had to give them to me while everyone watched. I held out my palm. You can count them if you need the full 3 minutes. The courtyard exploded. Even Naya covered her mouth. Cade looked away. Rusk counted the coins once, dropped them into my hand, and left so quickly that his robe struck the gate. By sunset, the public board called me the first student to register a living artificial summon. Combat potential, 0 remained beneath it. Students lined up to decide which line made Rusk look worse. My strength had moved from nothing to 2 living figures. My money had moved from 7 copper to 2 silver and 82 copper. My status had moved 1 place on the ranking board and 1,000 places in the rumors. I spent 26 copper on dinner for Nia and me. We bought beef stew with soft carrots, mashed potatoes, roast meat, and hot onion gravy. We shared a crisp loaf filled with garlic butter. Pip tried to steal the butter. The clay dog caught him by the tail. Neither needed food, but both appeared ready to begin a war over it. After dinner, we returned to room 13. I repaired the dog's cracked leg with fresh clay. The easy choice was to replace the whole limb. That would have made it smooth and strong. Instead, I pressed a thin layer over the crack and kept every part that had carried it through the test. The dog watched my hands. When I finished, it licked my wrist with a tongue made of wet clay. Nia sat across from me under the weak lamp. You could sell these. I could. You could become rich. Maybe. You are going to make more instead. I looked at the repaired leg. Tomorrow's work pays 15 copper per tunnel pest. I need 12 figures, better clay, and a dry place to sleep. She laughed. That was the least romantic answer possible. Was there a romantic question? Her face turned red. She threw a piece of bread at me. Pip caught it in the air. Then every clay figure in the room went still. Pip dropped the bread. The dog lifted its head. Both turned toward the leaning wall at exactly the same moment. I heard a deep sound beneath the academy. It was slow, heavy, wet. The wall moved inward, then outward, like the chest of something sleeping. Pip pressed his damaged breast against the stone. The dog placed one paw beside him. From somewhere far below us, a second heartbeat answered theirs. At sunrise, the academy wall stopped breathing. That did not make me feel better. It only meant the building was good at pretending to be a building. Naya pressed one ear against the stone. I hear the water pipe. Pip pressed his entire body against it. His damaged chest rose and fell with a rhythm much slower than his own. He hears something else, I said. The clay dog scratched the floor. A thin line appeared in the dust, pointing down. Before we could investigate, the public bell rang 3 times. A new work order appeared on the ranking board. Candidate Eli was assigned to clear the lower heating tunnels before sunset. The academy would pay 15 copper for every ember rat caught. Failure would cancel my temporary registration. Rusk's name stood beneath the order. Hundreds of students gathered to read it during breakfast. The lower tunnels were normally handled by third-year teams. A student near me said the last team had returned without eyebrows. Another said eyebrows were not important for summoning. His friend replied that they were important for recognizing your own face. Rusk waited beside the board in a clean black robe. You demanded recognition. Recognition includes responsibility. How many rats are below? I asked. If you need to ask, you are not ready. So you do not know. The students around us made the soft sound people made when they smelled trouble and did not have to pay for it. Rusk leaned closer. Yesterday's trick embarrassed this academy. Today will correct the record. That was his motive. If my class was real, then he had ended a historic awakening with almost 2 minutes left on the clock. Every new success made his judgment look worse. He did not need to hate me. He only needed me to fail before the senior faculty reviewed the exam. Put the work on the observation crystals, I said. If the record needs correction, everyone should see it. His eyes narrowed. Refusing would look like fear. He touched the board and opened the tunnel feed to the main courtyard. By the time we left, more than 300 students had reserved viewing places. Nia pulled me into the materials laboratory. Ember rats live beside hot pipes, but the lower tunnels are flooded. Your figures are raw clay. Water will turn your army into soup. Then we should not serve them with spoons. She stared at me for a moment, then pushed a bucket across the table. This is the same repair clay you used yesterday. 1 copper per handful. Do not make me regret helping you become funny. I had 2 silver and 56 copper after dinner. I spent 28 copper on clay. The purchase gave me 26 new handfuls and 2 for repairs. A real tunnel beast cost at least 30 silver before food and contract fees. My full team would cost less than 1 bowl of good stew. I worked for 3 hours. I made 3 more dogs with wide feet and short legs. I shaped 4 birds with better wings than Pip. Pip watched from the lamp and became offended whenever one looked too graceful. I made 2 flat beetles that could slide beneath doors. Last, I used 8 handfuls for a small bull with thick shoulders and horns like door handles. Together with Pip and the first dog, I had 12 figures. They did not look like an army. They looked like a shelf in a shop owned by a confused child. Then all 12 turned when I called, and the laboratory became very quiet. Nia painted each figure with a thin coat of oil and wax. It would slow the water, not stop it. She also packed dry powder for emergency repairs. If one begins to soften, bring it back, she said. I will. That was not advice. That was a condition. Pip nodded at me with great seriousness. You are not helping, I told him. The lower tunnel entrance stood beneath the central courtyard. 4 maintenance workers waited there with iron cages and a round observation crystal. Above us, students filled the steps. Cade occupied the front bench with enough empty space around him for another person and his pride. Rusk addressed the crystal. The candidate will enter without staff protection. This is a test of independent command. One maintenance worker coughed. We still go inside, right? For verification only. Good. My wife dislikes it when I die at work. The crowd laughed. Rusk did not. I led the 12 figures through the iron door. The crystal floated behind us. Its light carried every sound and image to the courtyard board. Heat struck first. Copper pipes crossed the ceiling and glowed dull red. Warm mist filled the passage. Water covered the floor to my ankles. The first clay dog stepped in and sank to its knees. The courtyard gasped through the crystal. Its paws had begun to soften in less than 5 seconds. The wax slowed the damage, but every step pressed water into the joints. Rusk's voice came from the crystal. A useful demonstration of why toys do not replace contracts. I picked up the dog. It trembled in my arms. The clay had become cold and weak. The easy path was back through the door. My temporary registration would vanish. Rusk would keep his record. The academy would keep its first law. I looked at the pipes overhead. Beetles, I said. Find the dry route. The 2 flat figures climbed the wall. Their wide bodies clung to mortar lines. Pip and the birds followed above the water. Through a side vent, the beetles found a narrow service ledge running behind the pipes. I lifted the dogs and bull onto it. The maintenance workers passed them forward. We moved in a line above the flood while the crowd watched. The first obstacle had cost us 4 minutes and part of one dog's feet. It had also shown me something important. My class gave function through form, but matter still obeyed matter. A clay wing could fly. A wet clay leg could still collapse. The first ember rat attacked from a pipe. It was the size of a house cat. Its fur glowed orange between black plates, and steam came from its teeth. It jumped at Pip. The original dog moved before I spoke. It struck the rat in the side. Both fell from the ledge and hit the shallow water. The rat twisted in the air. It landed on the dog's back and bit one shoulder. Orange heat cut into the clay. Pip dove. His crooked wing made him turn faster to the left than the right. He struck the rat's eye. The dog rolled, pinned it, and held until a worker closed an iron cage around it. 1 catch, 15 copper. The observation crystal announced the number in the courtyard. A cheer traveled down the tunnel. The dog climbed onto the ledge. A black bite mark crossed its shoulder. I touched the damaged clay and felt something harder beneath the surface. The place that had survived the rat's teeth had formed a dark ring, thin as a fingernail. The dog had remembered the pressure. 3 more rats came from the pipe, then 7 came from the next junction. The birds marked their positions from above. Dogs blocked the ledge. Beetles slid beneath the rats and lifted their front feet. The bull waited in the center like a small cupboard with anger problems. When 2 rats rushed together, it lowered its horns and drove both into a cage. The count rose to 12. In the courtyard, students began shouting the number before the crystal announced it. 12 became 18. 18 became 24. Our clay cost was already covered more than 10 times. Then we reached the furnace chamber. The door stood open. Someone had smeared fermented bait across the floor inside. Hundreds of orange eyes looked back at us. The maintenance workers stopped. "That bait is used for emergency sweeps," one whispered. "Who put it here?" The answer could wait. The rats did not. They poured through the door like boiling water. I sent the bull to the narrowest point. 4 dogs formed a line behind it. Birds filled the air. The beetles climbed above the doorway and dropped onto the first wave. The bull held for 3 seconds. Then the swarm covered it. Cracks ran across its back. One horn broke. The dogs dragged it free while Pip struck at glowing eyes. The second line bent. Water splashed from the floor, softening every foot that touched it. The courtyard went silent. I could hear Rusk breathing through the crystal. A larger rat appeared behind the swarm. It had a white scar across its snout and moved differently from the others. It rushed left, drew a dog toward it, then cut right and struck the dog's unprotected side. The dog fell. The large rat used the same false step again. Left, pause, then right. The original dog watched it. On the third attack, my dog stepped left first. The rat changed direction. The dog changed with it and struck before the bite landed. The movement was exact. My summon had copied the rat's feint. The black layer on its shoulder spread down one leg. It moved faster, repeating the learned step. The other dogs saw it. 1 heartbeat later, all 4 used the same motion. The swarm hit an empty line. The dogs struck from the side. The bull rose with 1 horn and drove forward. Birds forced the rats down from the pipes. Beetles closed the furnace vents, cutting off the hot current that fed their glowing fur. The battle changed. In the courtyard, someone screamed my name. Hundreds answered. We caught 30 rats, then 40. The cages filled. The maintenance workers locked each door and rolled the cages back along the dry ledge. At 50, the large rat broke through and rushed me. I had no sword. I had no armor. I held a bag of dry clay powder, which was a poor weapon unless the enemy feared pottery. Pip dropped from the ceiling. He struck the rat's scarred eye. The dog used the copied feint, came from the other side, and pinned its neck beneath both paws. The rat clawed the hardened shoulder. This time, it left no mark. The crystal announced 51. The courtyard sounded like thunder. We cleared the last chamber with 20 minutes left before sunset. The final count was 63 ember rats. At 15 copper each, the Academy owed 9 silver and 45 copper. All 12 figures returned. The bull had lost a horn. One bird could no longer fly. 2 dogs had legs soft enough to bend. They were damaged, frightened, and alive. When we walked into the central courtyard, every stair was full. Students stood on windowsills and roofs. The public board showed our count beside the record from the last third-year team. Their record was 38. Ours was 63. The board rang, and my rank jumped from 799th to 415th. The reaction shook dust from the archway. Yesterday, people had needed to ask who I was. Now hundreds pointed before I reached the bounty table. Rusk stood behind it with a locked money box. The contract specified pest removal, he said. The creatures are caged, not destroyed. Payment requires review. One of the maintenance workers pushed a cage beside him. An ember rat snapped at Rusk's robe. He jumped backward and struck the table. My dogs all tilted their heads. The crowd laughed. The kitchen requested live capture, Naya said. Ember glands lose value after death. The Academy earns 3 silver from every healthy specimen. Whispers crossed the courtyard. 63 rats would bring the Academy 189 silver. Rusk was trying to hold 9 silver and 45 copper from the person who had earned it. The original dog walked around the table and sniffed Rusk's robe. It followed the smell down to his right boot. Then it pulled a leather pouch from inside the top. The pouch split on the stones. Fermented bait rolled out. Silence fell. The maintenance worker pointed at it. That is the same bait from the furnace chamber. The observation crystal carried his words to every corner of the courtyard. Rusk looked at the pouch, then at the crowd. It was a training measure. You attracted more than 100 ember rats into a flooded chamber, Naya said. A controlled measure. One cage door shook as the large rat struck it from inside. It looks very controlled, I said. The crowd exploded with laughter. Cade sat in the front row with his arms crossed. Even he could not stop several students beside him from moving away from Rusk's side. The senior review crystal activated above the board. It replayed the start of my examination. Everyone watched Rusk stamp 0 while 117 seconds remained. Then the crystal gave its judgment. The exam had been ended without cause. My scholarship was restored. 30 silver of monthly support returned to my record, along with full meal access and the right to enter official qualifiers. My bronze badge rose from the board and flew across the courtyard. Rusk had to catch it. For the second day in a row, he placed my badge and my earnings into my hand while the whole Academy watched. 9 silver and 45 copper, I said. You may use the full 3 minutes again. This time, the maintenance workers laughed loudest. Rusk did not count. He dropped the money, turned, and walked into the closed cage beside him. His forehead struck the bars. The sound was clear and round. The courtyard became useless for several minutes. By dinner, drawings of Rusk arguing with a cage covered the notice boards. One showed him trying to register the bars as a summon. Another showed the cage ranked above me. My name was mentioned in every dining hall, while Rusk's name was usually followed by the sound of someone tapping a cup. My strength had risen from 2 figures to 12, and the survivors carried hardened battle layers and a stolen movement. My money stood at 11 silver and 73 copper before dinner. My rank had climbed 384 places, and my scholarship was back. Nia and I ate in the laboratory because the dining hall had become too loud. She baked meat pies in the sample oven. Their crusts were golden and thin. Hot gravy ran around pieces of beef, potato, and sweet carrot. We dipped fresh bread into onion soup and finished with 2 apples cooked in honey. Pip stole a piece of crust. The original dog caught him again. They repeat habits, Naya said. The dog has principles. The dog has your money habits. I spent the evening repairing them. The new clay closed cracks, but it did not feel the same beneath my fingers. Where I replaced a broken part, the dark battle layer ended. The dog remembered the rat's feint with its old legs, but a fully rebuilt leg copied it more slowly. Experience lived in the clay that survived. That made every repair a choice, strength or memory, a smooth body or a scar that knew how not to break. Nia held the one-horned bull while I reinforced its back. Her hands were warm against mine. Neither of us moved away quickly. You kept your promise, she said. Which one? You brought them all back. I looked at the 12 figures gathered around the lamp. Tomorrow will be harder. Then tomorrow I will tell you again. The figures lifted their heads together. For 1 second I saw the laboratory through Pip's eyes, then I saw it from the dog near the door, then from the beetle beneath the table. 12 views struck my mind at once. I gripped the workbench. Nia caught my shoulder. The views aligned. Every figure was looking at the same point below the floor. Then a 13th view opened. It came from somewhere none of my figures stood. I saw a chamber under the academy, vast and black. In the center rested a clay hand larger than the amphitheater. One unfinished finger slowly bent. The giant hand was gone when I opened my eyes again. I stood in the laboratory with both palms on the bench and 12 clay figures watching me. You stopped breathing, Nia said. The academy did not. I described the black chamber and the unfinished finger. She did not laugh. That worried me more than laughter would have. Nia scraped a grain of clay from Pip's repaired wing and placed it under a blue lens. Then she took dust from the crack between 2 floor stones. Both samples held tiny silver marks shaped like stars. Same mineral, she said. This repair clay was cut from the old foundation. Pip pecked the lens. The image shook, and for one moment every figure in the room pecked at empty air. The new bird stopped first. The dogs followed. The beetles lifted their front legs together. One thought had traveled through 12 bodies. They were made from one batch, Nia whispered. I closed my eyes and reached for Pip's sight. His view came easily. Then the dog's view joined it. Then the bull's. 12 separate pictures formed one map of the room. I told Pip to fly behind me. I still saw him. I sent a beetle into the corridor. I saw the hall through its low eyes, while my own hands remained on the table. Form gave function. Survival gave memory. Now clay from one batch was beginning to share both. The discovery lasted until my stomach made a sound like an injured door. Nia had brought breakfast from the dining hall. There were soft rolls brushed with butter, fried eggs with crisp edges, and slices of smoked sausage. She put a roll in my hand while I shaped clay with the other. Eat, she said. I am working. Then become the first emperor killed by breakfast. It will make a strong legend. I ate. The reason for my speed was posted on the city board. 6 grain warehouses near the west gate had been invaded by glass beetles. The insects cut sacks open and ruined flour with sharp wings. The merchants offered 50 silver per cleared warehouse before noon. 6 warehouses meant 3 gold. Yesterday, 9 silver had looked large. Today, the work offered more than 30 times that amount. It also required 6 teams. I had 1, so I made more bodies. Nia prepared equal clay balls while I shaped. Every life still had to pass through my hands. I pressed 18 flat beetles, 8 birds, 6 dogs, and 4 bulls. The forms were simple. A beetle took 3 minutes, a bird took 5, dogs and bulls took longer. By the time the city bell rang, my fingers felt like 10 pieces of hot wood. The new figures used 96 handfuls of clay. They cost 96 copper, less than 1 silver. Together with yesterday's survivors, I commanded 48 living summons. They filled the laboratory floor. The dogs sat in 4 uneven rows. Birds covered the shelves. Beetles hid beneath everything. The bulls stood in the center and looked as if a bakery had learned military discipline. When I raised one hand, all 48 looked up. The laboratory assistants crowded outside the door. Students pressed against the corridor windows. Someone ran to the ranking board, and within minutes the academy had opened an observation feed. Yesterday the crowd had come to see if I failed. Today, it came to count how many impossible things fit in one basement. Cade arrived as we carried the figures outside. His blue coat had silver fasteners. 2 assistants carried a red umbrella over him, though the sky was clear. 48 dolls, he said. You found a way to make cheap look crowded. Your umbrella has 2 summoners, I said. Mine move alone. The corridor laughed. One assistant lowered the umbrella and discovered that Cade was now standing in sunlight. He looked personally betrayed by the weather. Cade stepped closer. My family maintains more than 4,000 active beast contracts. We feed breeders, healers, handlers, and hunters. A living summon made for 1 copper does not make you clever. It makes you dangerous to everyone whose work built this profession. For the first time, his smile had a reason behind it. Then your profession should prove its value, I said. It will. Register for today's tournament qualifier. The fee is 1 gold. He looked toward the city board. Then clear the warehouses, if your toys return. His public challenge appeared beside the work order. Thousands of people in the market could read it. The academy observation feed followed us through the west gate. The 6 warehouses stood along one crowded street. Merchants, workers, and city inspectors waited behind rope lines. White flour leaked beneath every door. Inside, glass beetles clicked like bags of knives. The chief inspector gave me 6 brass seals. A team had to bring 1 seal to the center of each cleared building. If a beetle remained active, the seal would turn red and the payment would fail. "You have 1 command group," he said. "Which warehouse comes first?" "All of them." The public crystals carried my answer across the market. I divided the army into 6 squads. Each received 1 dog, 1 bird, several beetles, and either a bull or extra support. Pip took the largest warehouse. The original dog went with him. The doors opened together. 48 views hit my mind. For 3 seconds, I forgot which eyes belonged to me. I saw shelves from above, floor cracks from below, 6 doors, 6 ceilings, and hundreds of shining wings. My knees weakened. Nia caught my elbow. "1 room at a time." "No, 1 map." I stopped trying to control every figure. I gave each squad a simple purpose: find, block, mark. The shared clay carried positions between them. In the first warehouse, dogs tracked the insects behind grain sacks. Birds forced them down. Clay beetles slid into gaps and lifted the glass beetles into open space. Bulls knocked empty barrels across exits. The second squad saw the tactic through the common link. It copied the formation without waiting for my order. Then the third copied it. The market counter began to move. 20 glass beetles trapped, then 50, then 100. People along the rope shouted each number. Merchants climbed onto carts. Academy students repeated my name whenever another brass seal turned green. At the fourth warehouse, a swarm burst through an upper window. Sharp wings filled the street. The crowd scattered. Pip's squad was 2 buildings away. He saw the swarm through another bird and changed direction by himself. All 8 clay birds rose above the roofs. They formed a wide circle and drove the insects toward an empty flour wagon. The bulls struck the wagon from both sides. A white cloud exploded into the air. Glass wings became coated in flour. The beetles dropped like shiny stones. Every clay dog rushed from every warehouse at once. They pinned the insects before they recovered. The street vanished inside white dust. When it cleared, Cade stood behind the rope with flour across his blue coat and perfect black hair. He looked like an expensive cake with anger problems. The market laughed so loudly that 3 observation crystals shook. All 6 seals turned green before noon. The final count was 324 captured beetles. No grain worker was hurt. Only 2 sacks were lost. The merchants paid 3 gold into my hand while city inspectors and hundreds of witnesses watched. The chief inspector lifted one of my clay beetles. "Your army cost how much?" 96 copper today." He looked at the 3 gold, then at the figure. 1 gold equaled 10,000 copper. My production cost was less than 1% of the payment. Every merchant near him began speaking at once. Before I reached the academy gate, 6 new offers appeared under my name. A mill offered 4 gold a week. The city archive offered 5. A restaurant offered free meals if 1 clay dog guarded its pantry at night. I considered the restaurant carefully. My money had risen to 3 gold, 10 silver, and 77 copper. I paid the 1 gold qualifier fee. The board accepted it and moved my name into the afternoon bracket. Cade's name appeared opposite mine. The arena filled within an hour. Students occupied every seat. Merchants from the West Gate bought the public viewing feed. The city counter estimated more than 8,000 viewers. Rusk stood near the staff entrance with a bruise shaped like cage bars across his forehead. He avoided looking at me. The crowd noticed and began tapping cups against the benches. Cade walked onto the sand alone. "You brought 48 bodies to fight one." A silver contract circle opened behind him. A storm wolf stepped through. It stood taller than my shoulder. Dark blue fur covered a body made for speed. White sparks ran between its teeth. The arena board announced its registered value as 200 gold. My clay army had cost less than 2 silver across 3 days. The price difference appeared on the public board. The crowd reacted as if someone had placed a palace beside a soup bowl. "This is not rocks," Cade said. "My dragon only enters the final. If you cannot survive my second summon, you do not deserve to see him." The qualifier rules were simple. A summon could be forced from the ring, disabled, or surrendered. The winner received 10 gold from the tournament training fund and a place in the top 100. Cade lifted one hand. "I will finish this in 30 seconds. The arena clock began. The storm wolf vanished. The sound arrived first. A crack of thunder crossed the sand. One clay bowl broke into 3 pieces, 2 birds fell, a dog spun through the air and struck the ring wall, 4 summons lost in one charge. The crowd gasped. Cade had not exaggerated. The wolf was faster than any single pair of my eyes could follow, so I stopped using one pair. The birds spread over the ring, beetles covered the ground, dogs faced outward. 34 views formed one field around me. The wolf charged again. Every figure saw a different piece of the movement. One saw the paws, one saw the shoulders, Pip saw the angle of its head. Together, the broken images became a full path. Left, I said. The army moved before the word ended. The wolf passed through an empty formation. 4 clay beetles attached to its rear leg. It shook them away, but the crowd had seen the first miss. 30 seconds passed. I was still standing. The arena began to chant the time. Cade's promise remained above us on the board. I will finish this in 30 seconds. Beneath it, the clock showed 31, then 32. Cade's expression became stiff. Full speed, he ordered. Lightning covered the wolf. It ran in a spiral, changing direction 3 times inside one breath. 6 clay figures shattered. A bolt struck the original dog and burned a white line along its hardened shoulder. The dog remained upright. It had survived an ember rat there. The dark battle layer held. The wolf repeated the spiral. Every surviving figure watched. On the 3rd turn, the original dog stepped through the same pattern. It was slower. It was also in the exact place the wolf planned to leave. The dog struck its front leg. Beetles climbed both paws. Birds covered its eyes. 2 bulls charged from opposite sides. The storm wolf jumped above them. That was what Pip had waited for. He dove against one ear. The wolf twisted in the air. It landed near the white boundary line instead of the center. Every figure received the position through the shared mind. The dogs used the rat's false step. The bulls copied the wolf's spiral as far as their short legs allowed. They looked like angry cupboards trying to dance, but the pattern opened a path through the lightning. All 4 bulls struck together. The storm wolf crossed the boundary. The arena bell rang. Silence held for 1 heartbeat. Then 8,000 voices hit us. The public board declared me the winner. My rank changed from 415th to 64th. 10 gold moved into my tournament account. Cade stood inside the ring while his storm wolf waited outside it. He had promised 30 seconds. The clock showed 2 minutes and 46. Students began counting the difference out loud. Cade recalled the wolf. His face was pale, but he did not accuse me of cheating. He looked across the broken figures and understood exactly what had happened. Shared sight, he said. Shared mistakes, I replied. They only needed to see your wolf fail once. The sentence appeared on the public quote board before I left the ring. Cade glanced at the merchants in the high seats. They were already calculating what 1 copper summons meant for his family's prices. You think this is only a tournament, he said quietly. If your class spreads, breeding houses close. Contract healers lose work. Hunters lose buyers. I cannot allow one unknown power to break a system that feeds thousands. Then build a better system. He raised his voice so the crystals could hear. Rocks will meet you in the final. Fire does not care how many eyes clay has. The dragon's name sent a wave through the stands. Betting boards opened before the applause ended. My odds moved from 1 chance in 100 to 1 in 12. Cade had lost publicly. He had also turned the entire academy toward our next fight. Nia found me in the repair room. I had recovered every broken piece from the arena. 9 figures could be rebuilt. 1 bull and 2 birds had been crushed into powder too fine to hold their old forms. I placed their powder in 3 small jars. Can you bring them back? She asked. I can make new bodies from the material. I do not know if they will be the same. The common mind had gone quiet in 3 places. For the first time, victory felt heavier than the money attached to it. Nia set dinner beside me. Honey-glazed chicken covered a bowl of hot rice. The skin was crisp, the meat soft, and the sauce carried garlic and pepper. There were roasted green beans, thick slices of buttered pumpkin, and cold lemon water. We ate on the floor among the survivors. Pip sat on my knee. The original dog rested against Nia's boot without fear. You are 64th, she said. For now. You earned 13 gold today. 10 is in the tournament account. You have 48 summons. I looked at the 3 jars. 45. Nia touched my clay-covered hand. That is why they follow you. The door shook under a heavy knock. 6 academy guards waited outside. Behind them stood Director Soren, a thin man in a gray coat. I knew his face from the founder's portrait in the main hall. He held a sealed order. Eli, he said, while observation crystals gathered behind the guards. Every figure you created used Academy clay, Academy rooms, or Academy training grounds. Until ownership is decided, your summons are institutional property. The repaired figures rose around us. Soren touched the seal. Iron shutters slammed over every laboratory door and window. The 10 gold prize vanished from my account. A red line crossed my name on the public board. Assets frozen. Workshop sealed, tournament access suspended. Then chains rose from the floor around all 45 clay figures. The chains closed around empty space. Every figure moved one heartbeat before the metal reached it. Birds rose. Beetles slid under cabinets. Dogs jumped onto shelves. The bulls charged between the links and struck the iron shutters. I had given no order. All 45 had seen the spell form through the beetle nearest Director Soren's seal. One warning had crossed the whole batch. The shutters held. Chains filled the laboratory. Pip landed on my shoulder and glared at Soren. That, Soren said, is why this cannot remain unregulated. Your chains attacked first, I said. Observation crystals floated behind the guards. Students crowded the far corridor. The confiscation order had appeared on every public board, and half the academy was already trying to watch through the windows. Soren noticed them. He lowered the seal. A public ownership hearing will begin at noon, he announced. Until then, no figure leaves this room. And my final? Suspended. My 10 gold? Frozen. My breakfast? Soren paused. What? I wanted to know how far institutional ownership reached. The corridor laughed. Soren did not. He left 6 guards outside and walked away beneath a cloud of crystals. Rusk appeared at the end of the corridor. He saw the crowd looking at the fading cage mark on his forehead and immediately remembered another appointment. The hearing was 4 hours away. Nia and I had one locked laboratory, 45 summons, and an ownership claim based on materials records. Inventory rules, she said, more dangerous than monsters. Today, they are on our side. She opened the oldest cabinet and pulled out 6 thick ledgers. Dust covered them. Pip sneezed and started a chain of 44 other sneezes around the room. The guards outside stopped speaking. We searched every entry from the repair bin. Nia had made me sign for all later clay, but the first lump had come from the exam platform. That was the piece Soren needed. Every later figure held at least a little of the same batch through repairs. At first, the ledger said the clay belonged to Academy maintenance. 3 pages later, a workshop rule changed everything. Material dropped into a public examination circle was counted as consumed. Any rejected material left after testing became the candidate's property. Rusk had rejected the bird. He had also crushed it and told me to take the pieces away. His public humiliation had created my proof of ownership. Nia read the line twice. Then she kissed the page. I may be jealous of that book, I said. She looked at me over the cover. Win the hearing and we can discuss your performance. For the next hour, I forgot several important legal questions. At noon, the main hall held 600 students, 12 city merchants, the academy faculty, and every available observation crystal. The public feed reported more than 20,000 viewers. Drawings of my clay dog beating Rusk's ferret hung from upper balconies. One drawing showed the dog wearing Rusk's robe. Soren sat beneath the founder's statue. Cade stood among the tournament competitors. His expression said he wanted me in the final, but not because he had begun to like me. My 45 figures entered in a tight group. They needed no direct commands. Birds took the beams. Beetles checked beneath the benches. Dogs surrounded Nia and me. The bulls walked at the front. The hall went quiet as 180 clay feet struck the floor together. Soren opened the hearing. The Academy does not deny that Eli shaped these figures. It claims the clay, the workshop, the training, and the magic used to awaken them. No student may remove institutional resources worth an unknown amount. The word unknown moved across the hall. 3 days earlier, my class had been worthless. Now it was too valuable to belong to me. Soren displayed the academy debt on the main crystal. 50,000 gold. Repairs, beast food, contract insurance, and royal taxes had consumed the budget. The capital had offered to erase the debt if the Academy delivered any unregistered sovereign-class summoning path. If we refuse, Soren said, this Academy closes before winter. 2,000 students lose their training. 400 workers lose their income. I will not trade their lives for one candidate's pride. The crowd did not laugh. His reason was real. Then ask me to help, I said. Do not put chains around living creatures and call it accounting. Soren's eyes moved toward the original dog. Its dark scars and white lightning mark were visible from the high seats. Are they living creatures? He asked. Or are they a skill wearing faces? If you die, do they die? If you lose control, do they attack? Nobody knows. You could have asked that before the chains. The audience shifted. Soren had a strong argument. He had used it in the wrong order. Nia carried the repair ledger to the founder's crystal. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. She read the examination rule. Rejected material became the candidate's property. Then the crystal replayed Rusk crushing Pip and ordering me to remove the pieces. The hall watched Pip's first body spread under the boot. Pip stood on my shoulder and watched too, his claws pressed into my coat. The replay ended with Rusk saying that artificial things had no life. Someone tapped a cup against a bench. Another person joined. Within seconds, 600 people tapped the rhythm of Rusk striking the cage. Rusk sat behind the faculty row and lowered his head. The founder's crystal examined the ledger. A green line passed through every page. Then it spoke across the hall. The first batch had legally transferred to me. Every later purchase was recorded and paid. The Academy had no material ownership. The public board removed the red line from my name. The hall erupted. My 10 gold prize returned to the tournament account. The laboratory shutters opened. The chains dissolved. Soren did not look surprised. He lifted his seal again. Material ownership is only the first claim. The Academy Safety Code permits containment of any untested summon capable of independent group action. The cheering stopped. A section of the hall floor opened. The Academy Guardian climbed from below. It was an iron body twice the height of a man, with 4 thick arms and a furnace in its chest. Water tanks covered its back. Runes moved across every joint. It had no life. It was a tool powered by the Academy core, a walking stove built by people who hated furniture. Soren faced the crystals. If the figures can complete a controlled safety trial against the Guardian, they will receive independent summon status. If they cannot, they remain contained. Cade stepped from the competitor row. That Guardian is used against escaped war beasts. Then it will provide useful evidence, Soren said. He needed the capital's offer. The ownership claim had failed, so he had moved to danger. He was not trying to look fair. He was trying to save the Academy before the audience could stop him. The founder's crystal accepted the legal test. Stone walls rose around the center of the hall, turning it into a square arena. Students filled the balconies. City merchants kept the public feed open. Every victory I had earned now gave me witnesses Soren could not remove. The Guardian entered the square. My 45 figures followed. The trial ends when one side cannot continue, Soren said. The Guardian's furnace opened. Fire crossed the arena. 6 birds fell at once. Their wet clay skins smoked. 2 beetles cracked. The dogs scattered through the copied spiral step, but the Guardian's lower arms struck both sides together. 1 bull shattered against the wall. The audience cried out. The Guardian had removed 9 figures in its first attack. Then the tanks on its back opened. Water sprayed across the floor. My army had survived ember rats and a storm wolf. It could not fight while its legs dissolved. Soren had chosen the exact weapon for raw clay. The original dog jumped onto a bench as water reached it. Through its eyes, every figure saw dry points around the arena. They moved as a single body. Birds lifted beetles. Dogs carried damaged birds. Bulls climbed fallen stones. The Guardian turned its water jets. There were 36 survivors and 1 safe ledge. Not enough space. I divided my attention across all their eyes. The common mind no longer felt like 45 voices. It felt like one creature with 45 memories. Do not avoid the water, I said. Move it. The dogs ran down opposite walls. The Guardian followed them with both jets. Water struck the furnace doors. Steam covered its own face. Pip flew through the cloud and landed on the upper exhaust lever. He was too light to move it. 4 birds joined him, then 6. The lever dropped. The furnace exhaust opened toward the safe ledge. A blast of dry heat hit my figures. The audience screamed. Soren stood. For several seconds, every clay body vanished behind orange light. Then the original dog walked out. Its gray surface had become red ceramic. The dark battle layer remained beneath a hard shell. Pip followed, shining like a badly painted cup. His crooked wing was stronger than before. Fire had not given them a new power. It had finished the clay. The Guardian charged. 36 baked figures met it. Dogs struck with the rat's feint. Bulls used the storm wolf's spiral. Beetles climbed iron joints and locked themselves inside the gaps. Each figure saw through the others. When one discovered a weak hinge, all of them knew it. The Guardian smashed 3 dogs. Their ceramic bodies broke instead of bending. Hardness had a price. The remaining dogs did not stop. Pip flew before the Guardian's face. It swung. He turned left through the gap his crooked wing always gave him. The fist struck its own water tank. The tank burst. A solid stream hit the furnace crystal. Steam exploded from the chest. Runes vanished along the lower arms. Every bull charged the same knee. The joint broke. The guardian fell forward. The clay army moved aside in one wave. Its iron head struck the arena floor at Soren's feet. The bell rang. Water from the broken tank shot over the wall and hit Soren from head to boots. His gray coat collapsed around him. His hair covered his eyes. He looked like an umbrella that had lost an argument with a river. The main hall was silent for half a second. Then 20,000 viewers watched the director stand inside a growing puddle while 33 clay figures bowed to him. The laughter was not gentle. The Founder's Crystal declared the safety trial complete. Independent summon status appeared beside my name. No academy, guild, or contract house could classify my figures as property again. My rank rose from 64th to 8th. The 10 gold tournament award fully unlocked. The academy added 30 gold compensation for unlawful containment and damage to registered living summons. Soren had to approve the payment with his wet seal. 40 gold, I said. Would you like 3 minutes to count it? The students struck the benches with their feet. Rusk stood and left before anyone could look at him. Soren pressed the seal against the crystal. No, I have learned that lesson. He looked tired rather than angry. For the first time, I saw the man beneath the office. The capital will not accept this ruling, he said quietly. Inspector Valen arrives tomorrow. He does not need our charter to take what he wants. Then he should arrive before the final, I said. The seats are already full. By late afternoon, every public board carried the Guardian fight. Orders for clay patrols reached 112. 3 contract houses lowered their basic prices. 1 offered free food for the first month. Cade's family did not lower anything. Their tournament advertisement changed instead. Tomorrow, Rox the Fire Dragon would destroy the clay army. Beneath it, someone had drawn Soren dripping water onto Rusk's cage. I returned to the laboratory with 42 gold, 10 silver, and 77 copper. 33 figures had survived the Guardian. Some were baked hard, others carried wet damage, all held 3 days of shared memory. Nia bandaged my fingers. The skin had split along both thumbs from shaping and repairs. You need rest, she said. I need an army. You have 33. Rox weighs more than our laboratory. The laboratory has less fire. That is why I like it. We ate before work. Nia roasted chicken legs in the sample oven until the skin became crisp with salt and herbs. We split baked potatoes and filled them with butter, soft cheese, and green onions. There was thick mushroom gravy, warm bread, and a bowl of cold cream with berries. The clay figures gathered around us. Pip sat beside my plate. The original dog rested its ceramic head on my foot. What happens after you win? Nia asked. I pay for a room with a wall that does not breathe. A large dream. It may need 2 rooms. She looked at me. Why 2? 1 for the clay. Nia threw a green onion at my forehead. Pip caught it before impact. After dinner, I bought 210 handfuls from the old repair stock. They cost 2 silver and 10 copper. Nia prepared equal pieces. I shaped until my bandages turned gray. The forms were small and fast. Beetles, birds, short dogs, thick bulls, curved snakes made to wrap around larger legs. I completed 87 bodies before the midnight bell. The moment each woke, the older figures shared their memories. A new dog stood on untrained legs, blinked once, and performed the rat's false step. A new bull traced the stormwolf's spiral around a jar and knocked it from the table. Nia caught the jar. The common mind needs better manners. 33 survivors and 87 new bodies gave me 120 summons. My strength had nearly tripled in one evening. My money still exceeded 42 gold. My name stood 8th in the academy, and the final bracket had restored me opposite Cade. Then Pip flew toward the central courtyard. Every figure followed. We found Soren beside the broken arena floor. Workers had removed the Guardian, revealing a layer of gray clay beneath the stone. The exposed material carried the same silver marks as Pip's body. The 120 figures formed a circle around it. The old heartbeat returned. This time, the whole courtyard felt it. Windows shook, bells rang without ropes. Students poured from the dormitories. Observation crystals rose above the roofs. A piece of the exposed clay was cracked. Its shape matched the unfinished finger from my vision. I knelt and pressed fresh clay into the gap. Soren grabbed my shoulder. Do not complete it. What is it? The Academy Foundation is not a foundation. The clay moved beneath my palm. Cold passed through my hands, the same cold I had felt when I chose Emperor of Clay. The new piece received life because I had shaped it. That life touched the older material around it. The entire courtyard lifted by the width of one finger. Thousands of students screamed. Beyond the walls, one hill beside the academy moved. Soil broke away from 5 enormous clay nails. Soren stared at them. The academy is one unfinished figure. The public registry crystal tried to measure it. The board flashed, cracked, and displayed a single line. Living structure detected. Creator unknown. My 120 summons turned toward the western sky. A black royal airship crossed the moon. Gold letters on its side formed the name Valen. It had arrived one day early. The royal airship stopped above the academy. Wind magic carried Inspector Valen down beside guards holding staffs made to fire heat into stone. He studied the giant clay nails, then my 120 figures. "Which one is Eli?" he asked. Pip pointed one wing at me. The courtyard laughed. Valen wore a white coat and the expression of a man who had never paid full price for anything. He raised a golden seal. A royal notice covered every public board. By order of the Royal Pact Council, the unregistered sovereign class called Emperor of Clay is placed under capital control. All products, research, and related living structures will transfer with its holder. "Products?" Nia asked. The original dog growled. 119 figures copied it. "They dislike your vocabulary," I said. "Objects do not have preferences." Pip dropped wet clay onto Valen's polished shoe and returned to my shoulder. One student clapped. Hundreds joined before the guards decided if applause was illegal. Soren stepped between us. His coat was dry, but his hair had not recovered from the guardian fight. "Independent summon status was confirmed under the Founder's Charter," he said. "The Crown wrote the charter," Valen replied. "The Crown may close it." "After the tournament," I said. 12,000 spectators already waited for the noon final. If Valen seized me now, the kingdom would see the capital stop a 1 copper army from facing a dragon. "You want to know whether I can control the academy," I continued. "Let the final happen. You will see the full class." Naya gripped my sleeve while Valen considered the crowd. "The tournament may continue," he said. "When it ends, you will leave on my ship. If Cade's dragon leaves anything to collect." Valen smiled for the first time. "Then I will collect the pieces." The tournament bracket returned beneath his order. The final became my last public hour before the capital took my class. We had 6 hours. I spent 4 silver and 1 copper on the rest of the old foundation clay. That brought my total material cost since the exam to exactly 7 silver and 39 copper. Nia prepared small pieces, and I shaped every one. The forms were rough and fast. Pip still rejected several birds for being too attractive. My bandages split. Nia replaced them without asking me to stop. "Open," she said. I opened my mouth. She put in a piece of hot flatbread filled with egg, sausage, and melted cheese. "Again," she said, "I am not a furnace." The furnace complains less. The bread was crisp, the eggs hot with pepper, and the cheese soft. When butter reached the clay, Nia slapped my hand away. At sunrise, 180 new bodies stood beside the old army. I now had 300 figures. 33 carried hardened layers. The rest received their experience through the common mind when they opened their eyes. The army marched through the east gate in 12 rows. Cade waited opposite us beneath a contract circle covering half the sky. Rocks descended through it. The dragon was larger than the training hall. Dark red scales covered him, smoke curled from his nostrils, and each wing opened wider than the arena floor. Cade looked small beside him. That was impressive because Cade had never looked small beside anything, including facts. The board valued Rocks at 4,000 gold. His daily food cost 10. My entire army had cost 7 silver and 39 copper. The crystals converted the prices. Rocks represented 40 million copper. My army represented 739. The number spread across the kingdom, and my odds fell to 1 in 20 when Rocks melted part of the arena wall. Cade walked to the center line. "This is your last chance to withdraw. Rocks has fought adult wyverns. He has burned siege beasts inside their armor. Has he fought pottery?" The observation crystals carried the question everywhere. Cade's mouth tightened. "After today, nobody will build their future on mud. After today, your family may sell smaller dragons." The crowd struck the benches. Even several royal guards turned their heads to hide smiles. Surrender, incapacity, or crossing the white boundary meant defeat. The prize was 300 gold and first place. Valen watched from the balcony while royal heat staffs surrounded the arena. Nia stood behind the safety wall with my spare bandages around her wrists. "Bring them back," she called. 300 clay heads turned toward her. "I will try," I said. The bell rang. Rocks inhaled. The first breath covered half the arena. Fire swallowed 100 figures and pushed me back 3 steps. The crowd screamed. When the flame ended, 70 figures lay as powder. 30 others glowed red but remained standing. Cade raised his hand. Again. Rocks breathed a second time. I sent the raw clay snakes forward. Dogs carried the soft snakes through safe gaps while birds showed every current. They wrapped around Rox's front legs. The second flame struck them there. Raw clay became hard ceramic around the dragon's ankles. The same fire meant to erase us had finished our armor. 12 baked snakes cracked, but held long enough for beetles to climb Rox's scales and bulls to press more clay into his joints. My odds rose to 1 in 6. Cade saw the numbers. Wing strike. Rox opened both wings. The air hit like a wall. Baked figures could resist fire but not bend. 80 shattered, and their last sights struck the common mind together. My knees hit the sand. The public board counted 150 surviving summons. Cade pointed at me. Your army feels through you. Every loss makes you weaker. Rox beat his wings again. I tried to command every retreat. 150 views tangled, and the formation collapsed. The third wing beat came. The survivor count fell to 112. The crowd had stopped cheering. They watched my army die one number at a time. Pip landed before me with 1 melted wing. Through his eyes, I saw every survivor. They were not waiting for 112 orders. They were waiting for one purpose. Protect each other, I said. Put Cade outside the ring. I stopped moving individual bodies. The army moved itself. Birds dropped behind bulls, dogs carried cracked beetles to safety, snakes loosened before the wind and tightened after it passed, Rox beat his wings. Not one figure shattered. 12,000 people rose from their seats. The original dog used the rat's false step, then turned into the storm wolf's spiral. 60 figures changed direction with it. Rox attacked empty sand. Birds used the timing they had learned and rose through the weak space beneath his wings. Pip led them. Pip turned left through a gap no perfect bird would use. Rox missed and followed his crooked path. For 1 second, Cade stood without the dragon watching his side. Beetles reached his boots. He blasted them away, opening the path my bulls wanted. All 40 charged. Cade ordered Rox to turn, but the baked snakes cost the dragon 2 seconds. The bulls reached Cade. His barrier stopped the first line. The next changed angle and used the Stormwolf's spiral. The barrier held, but Cade slid 6 feet across the sand. He was 1 step from the boundary. "Burn everything!" he shouted. Rox opened his jaws. Full fire would destroy the army and strike Cade. Rox hesitated. Cade repeated the order. The dragon did not breathe. The crowd saw the difference between contract and ownership. Rox would not burn the person he had chosen to protect. The original dog reached Cade's barrier. Its ceramic shoulder had survived a rat, lightning, the guardian, and dragon fire. It struck the light. The barrier cracked. Pip struck Cade's perfect hair. Cade raised both hands to protect his face. The final bull hit his knees. He crossed the white line and landed in the wet clay trough outside the arena. The bell rang. Cade sat in gray mud with Pip standing on his head. The public board declared my victory before anyone breathed. Then the kingdom became noise. 12,000 people shouted inside the arena. More than 100,000 watched through crystals. Bells rang across the academy. City merchants threw paper contracts into the air. Students who had laughed at one ugly bird now chanted the name Emperor of Clay. Cade's hair finally lost its battle with the world. He stood slowly. Mud covered his blue coat. Rox lowered his head beside him. Cade touched the dragon's jaw before looking at me. "You did not defeat his fire," he said. "No. You used his choice. He protected you." Cade looked up at Rox. Something in his face changed. He had entered the ring to defend a business built on living contracts. For one moment, he had treated the greatest contract in his life like a weapon without a will. He faced the observation crystals. "I lost," he said. "The result is valid." The admission traveled farther than any excuse could have. My rank changed from 8th to 1st. 300 gold entered my account. My available money rose to 342 gold, 4 silver, and 66 copper. The survivor count settled at 83. I had entered with 300. 217 clay lives had gone quiet. The 83 that returned were harder, faster, and marked by dragon fire. The army was smaller than at sunrise and stronger than it had ever been. Public contract prices changed before I left the ring. Cheap tunnel beasts fell by 1/3. Healing and ethical care packages appeared beside every major contract. Cade's family announced that no bonded creature would be classified as property again. One victory had moved strength, money, status, and the market watching all three. Nia met me behind the arena wall. She did not ask about the gold. She counted the survivors. 83, she said. 83. She opened the repair case. Inside were warm roast chicken sandwiches wrapped in cloth. The bread held crisp skin, soft meat, pickled onions, melted cheese, and a sweet pepper sauce. There were fried potatoes covered with salt and herbs, and 2 honey buns still hot from the oven. We sat on the floor between the exhausted figures and ate. Pip slept in her lap. The original dog rested against both our legs. You could have sent the last line into the fire, Nia said. It might have ended sooner. They found another way. You let them. They are alive. She leaned over and kissed my cheek. I stopped chewing. Was that a romantic question? I asked. Your performance improved slightly. The arena doors opened before I could ask for a second review. Valen entered with 40 royal guards. The spectators were still in their seats. The observation feed remained open. Soren, Cade, Rox, the merchants, and the entire academy watched the inspector walk to the center of the ring. Valen raised the golden seal. The tournament is complete. Eli and all surviving constructs now transfer to the Royal Pact Council. The academy structure will be evacuated and placed under military control. Boos fell from every side. Valen touched the seal, and the sound vanished beneath a dome of silence. The northern kingdoms are building siege spirits, he continued. A walking fortress could save 100,000 lives. I will not leave it in the hands of a student because a crowd enjoys his jokes. His motive was larger than pride. It was also built on the same mistake Rusk had made. He saw clay and called it an object. The academy is not my summon, I said. You awakened it. I shaped one broken piece. Someone else made the body. Valen looked toward the hills outside. Then you will finish it for the crown. Ask the academy. The crowd heard me through the royal silence. Valen's eyes hardened. He ordered the guards to fire their heat staffs into the exposed foundation. 40 red beams struck the courtyard. Pain passed through the 83 survivors. They all turned toward the floor. I felt the connection at last. Every handful of repair clay had been cut from the foundation. Every bird, dog, bull, beetle, and snake belonged to the same ancient batch as the academy. The common mind had not created the 13th view. It had found its oldest body. The living patch beneath the courtyard carried our memories into it. Pip's first flight, the dog's first scent, the flooded tunnels, the storm wolf, the guardian, Rox's fire, 217 empty places. The academy remembered all of them. The ground rose. Arena seats split away from the soil without breaking. Towers lifted into the sky. The main hall became a shoulder. Dormitories unfolded along a vast back. The central courtyard opened like one enormous hand. The city screamed and cheered at the same time. Earth fell from a clay body larger than a mountain. It had no finished face. One arm ended at the wrist. Half its chest remained rough and unshaped, yet it stood, carrying the academy and every person inside it. The royal airship looked like a toy beside its head. Valen held the golden seal higher. By crown authority, kneel. The giant bent one unfinished finger. For one hopeful second, Valen smiled. Then the finger flicked the seal from his hand. It crossed the arena, struck the clay trough, and vanished into the same gray mud that had held Cade. The observation crystals followed it all the way. Laughter erupted across the kingdom. Valen ran toward the trough. The giant pinched the royal airship between 2 fingers, lifted it from the sky, and placed it beside him in the arena. The ship landed upside down. Its golden staircase opened into the mud. Royal guards stared at their heat staffs and slowly lowered them. The dome of silence broke. Soren stepped forward. Inspector, the living structure has completed its safety trial. The arena shook with laughter again. Valen pulled the muddy seal free. His white coat was gray to the waist. Every public board still carried the scene. He could not hide it, deny it, or end the feed without admitting that the crown feared a school. He pressed the seal against his wrist. A new order appeared across the kingdom. Emperor of Clay was declared a forbidden sovereign class. The Royal Pact Council would send the Kiln Army to secure the academy within 7 days. The distant institution had finally shown its hand. Valen looked at me from the mud. Enjoy your victory. The capital has weapons built to turn mountains into glass. The unfinished giant leaned closer. Its voice came from every wall, floor, and clay survivor at once. Little shapes, it said. You gave me your eyes. Pip flew from Nia's lap and landed on the giant finger. The original dog followed as far as the arena wall and barked. The academy's rough head turned toward me. "New hand," it said. "My first maker is gone. My face is missing. My heart is empty." Far to the west, the sky turned red. A line of capital furnace ships rose beyond the mountains, 6 days earlier than Valen's order promised. The giant opened its unfinished palm beneath me. "Will you finish me before the Kiln army arrives?"